I don't think most people have noticed yet, but it feels like at least 50% of all the content I see on social media now was written by AI. The only reason I know this is because I frequently use AI. I bounce off ideas. I have it help me edit certain sentences when I write scripts for my main channel, YouTube videos. And it's been a couple of years now since everyone has been using it regularly, almost every single day. And when you've used it for that long and that frequently, you start to notice some patterns. Patterns in the way that it speaks, let's say, the way it makes sentences, and the way that it structures its ideas. And I went over these in great detail in my AI writing epidemic video on my main channel. But now it feels like you'd be hard pressed to find a video where someone didn't use AI to write at least like a quarter of the script. You go on short form content, if it's not an AI voice narrating the whole thing, it's a creator who's trying to play it off as if this entire script wasn't written by AI, but they're just committing all of the obvious cases of AI writing, stuff like, oh, well, it's not because of this and this, it's because this. Men don't want to marry, they want pride and love. It's like, what does that even mean, bro? Like there's someone on Instagram I called out for this. Honestly, I think you should call out people for this. And that's why I think people are attracted to this channel, because it's just off the dome and I can't use AI to speak right now. And a very interesting thing is starting to happen because of this. There's a creator who pointed out what I thought would happen because of this. People are starting to sound more like ChatGPT now. The way that they speak in real life, even when they're not influenced to use AI or they're not using AI, is more so like ChatGPT, using the same words and the same sort of sentence structures. So this is a little worrying, because while we naturally consume other people's opinions and ideas and speaking cadence, depending on who we're around the most, and that especially is true when we're really young and we're first absorbing our initial instances of the world, we're going to replicate their speaking style. But what happens when the thing that we are now replicating is not a human? Well, I would argue that we all start thinking a little less like humans. Our thoughts are a reflection of usually the way we speak. And if we are consuming mostly AI content now on the internet, or like 50% of it is AI content, we start thinking like AI. We start speaking like AI, which has already been proven. And when that happens, I think original, innovative thoughts go to die. Now, of course, I think we're in an era of unprecedented individualism. And that means that a lot of people have a lot of unique beliefs, more unique than it's ever been in history, I would argue, which means that like a lot of people have different thoughts and ideas as opposed to their neighbors. You know, they will believe some sort of policy should be enacted, but then also they got part of their personality from a strange internet niche, and it's not even relatable to other people in real life. That type of individualism, it's never been seen before. And in the past, we all had a stronger pull towards groupthink and tribalism in a way, because you literally could not get any sort of information apart from your elders and the people you were close to, because globalization of information just didn't exist. So the initial response might be, oh, it might not be that bad then, because we've always had this sort of groupthink and it's influenced by what we consume and the people we're surrounded by. And, not everyone has to have unique, innovative, original thoughts, because that was probably less the case back then. But there's a specific type of like innovative, unique thought that I'm talking about here, which I'm afraid that we lose if we continue to carry away and siphon our thinking into AI and plugging it into AI, which is the ability to create ideas that move your intelligence and humanity forward. So I'll try to give an example of this. Like, let's say you're working through a difficult problem and it's related to a book you're reading. Let's say you're reading some sort of philosophical book. It's got some really dense passages in there, and you're like, okay, I need to kind of work through this and get outside context and an outside lesson that might make it click for me. And you use AI for that process. So you put in the passage and you say, what is your interpretation of this passage? What does it mean? What is the meaning? Can you explain it to me like I'm 5? Now, that absolutely expedites the process at which you can understand information and therefore absorb more information more quickly. But what did you actually do in that process? You essentially gave your brain over to AI and allowed it to do the heavy lifting that happens when you are presented with information that is difficult to dissect and consume upon first glance. And that skill right there, I think that's where innovative ideas happen. Because if you simply just carry that information and plug it into AI, you're not actually going through the process of what does this information mean to me when I finally get to the point of understanding. Not only is there a great critical thinking process that happens once you finally arrive at a place where you can understand that information, but also the opinion you arrive at is not even going to be yours if you just plugged it into AI. In other words, AI is going to create an entire subgroup of people who let their ideas be shaped by AI, and that AI is going to give them the same exact answer pretty much and feed their thoughts and ideas and beliefs before they can even consider what unique thing they could, or what unique lesson or idea they could extract from that if they spent more time working through something difficult that an author wrote or that a piece of content was presenting. And when that happens, we have, like I said, a whole group of people whose entire ideas and beliefs are shaped by AI. And they lost in the process of that the entire procedure of not understanding something, knowing you want to understand it, and you have these sort of vague ideas around it that you just need to crystallize through just a bit more thinking and a bit more effort. That then leads you to create this sort of original thought, or thought that could bring something new to this passage. Because we all have a similar external reality, pretty much the same external reality. We can all agree that we are seeing and hearing and tasting all the same things, but how we perceive all of those things is radically different in some cases. And that's the beauty of humanity. That's the beauty of being human, is the fact that we don't perceive everything the same way. And that through someone else's perspective, we can perhaps understand things better. And then through their perspective, try to figure out, what does this mean to me? What is the idea that I want to propose based on this sort of information that this other person gave me, that I can possibly add to help other people with my sort of perspective understand it? But when we put that entire process into a computer and we let the computer do all that hard thinking for us, I think innovative thoughts, they are less frequent to come by. Because every time I have some sort of innovative idea I want to present in a YouTube video, that's just like an aha moment after watching and researching enough things on the thing I want to talk about in my next video. Oh man, that process, it's hard, but it's so rewarding to get to a place where you can articulate this muddy thing that was in your mind and be able to present it to an audience that might be impacted by it and might think to themselves after watching, I never thought of it that way. And that I never thought of it that way moment might happen less and less because of AI. And of course, the critical thinking that is required for that and how it is lost, it is concerning, to say the least. So if this is something you struggle with, if you find you're reading things that you don't quite understand, and then you just pop it into AI and you say, can you summarize this for me? What's the meaning? I want you to not do that for, well, ideally, pretty much never, but try to not do it for at least like the next month. Read philosophy, read fiction even, read self-help. If you come across something that is difficult to comprehend, I want you to write down your initial thoughts of this. Write down, like, how did this make me feel? What's the basic understanding of what the author is proposing here? And what did I take away from that? Now, sit and think, what is maybe a counter argument to this? Or how could I strengthen the author's argument? Or what is a way that I could communicate what they're trying to say maybe a little bit better? And through that process of actually engaging your brain the way it's meant to, you're going to figure out something interesting. And you're going to have something interesting to talk about and an interesting idea to tell people about, perhaps, if that's something you want to do, if you want to be better at articulating your thoughts and bring interesting perspectives to conversations. That really helps. But even if that's not your motive, this sort of exercise is so important to developing critical thinking skills and keeping your brain sharp and logically consistent and emotionally regulated. And I just find that the more that I do this, the more that I'm bringing something to the world that may have perhaps never been able to be brought to the world if I had just asked AI, hey, summarize this for me and create my thoughts for me, basically. So yes, we did have this in the past in the way that we could not basically disagree with the group or the tribe we were in, and it was likely you weren't getting any new ideas outside of the people who are older than you, who are trying to tell you their traditions and beliefs. But even in that sort of society, in that time period, you had the space to really think and engage with, what is it I'm seeing? What is it I want to describe about the world? What is a belief I want people to understand? And that belief was truly your own. It was truly after the process of going through it in a very difficult manner. It was more so your own. So let's not lose that. Let's embrace humanity and engage with humanity and do the things that separates us from simply just being animals who are governed by our lowest level behaviors, which is our higher level brain, our logic thinking, our critical thinking. And do this exercise that I said here. Engage with tough text. Try to articulate it in your own words, and try to use those words to present new ideas and help other people understand their own thoughts. I don't know if my novel will necessarily be considered tough text, but I am writing a novel right now, and it's almost done. We are finally out of the climax, and all I have to do is write the falling action and the resolution. If you are interested in that, this is a novel, a fiction novel about a 21-year-old living in a post-pandemic world. That's the world we're living in right now, who goes through a really tragic loss. He loses his mother, and due to that loss, the mental trauma it has, he develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. If that sounds interesting to you, it combines like sci-fi, fantasy, philosophy, self-improvement, then you can get updates for that novel and be sure to not miss it when it comes out by going to my Substack. And that's also where I write my newsletters. So if you want to subscribe to my Substack, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for listening. I'd love to hear your own thoughts on this video in the comments, and goodbye.